Hey everyone. This lesson is going to be about playing notes on the G string. The end goal of our lesson is to be able to play line 98 in our book, the G major scale. Now, the good news about learning how to play the G major scale is you already know how to do most of it. All of this here is actually the bottom four notes of a D major scale, D, E, F sharp, G, which just leaves us with the bottom four notes that we're going to need to learn on our G string. So let's get started. I've shown you the note guide before. It's in your virtual music folder. And we talked about it just in reference to the notes that we already know. Now I'm going to cross some things off here because we haven't yet learned this note or this note. Those are coming soon. But we have learned these other four notes on our A string, these four notes or five notes, we've learned fourth finger, and learned these notes on our D string. Our job today is to learn how to play the first four notes on our G string. That's for the violin, for the viola, and for the cello. Those four notes there. Now, learning how to actually play the notes is going to be pretty easy for us. The challenge is going to be, for most of us, is going to be learning how to read the notes because we're just not used to seeing notes that are in that part of the staff yet. So let me go through how we're going to finger the notes in each of the instruments. On the violin, low G, two ledger lines down and below, there's our low G, that's our open G string. Two ledger line downs, one line, that's our A, and that's going to be our first finger on our first tape. It's a lot like playing an E or a B on these other strings. One ledger line with a note below it, that's a B. Second finger on our G string on our second tape. So I know it doesn't say so on the note guide, but you guys, most of you have a tape right here. And then third finger on our third tape gets a C, which is on the first ledger line below the staff. So the number of ledger lines is very, very important here and where the note is in relation to them. The C is on the first ledger line. The B is below the first ledger line. The A is on the second ledger line, and the G is below the second ledger line. For the viola, reading those notes, we have our open G, it's the bottom space of the staff. First finger on the first tape gives us an A, and that's the first line of the staff. Our second finger on our second tape, just like the violins, you guys have a tape here on your instruments. Second finger on the second tape gets us a B, which is the second space of the staff. And third finger on the third tape gets us a C, which is in the middle line of the C clef staff. As it turns out the C clef, this arrow right here points to that middle line, telling us that anything on the middle line is always going to be a C. For the cellos, our G string is the bottom line of the staff. First finger A is the bottom space of the staff. Third finger on our second tape. So third finger on that tape gets us the B, and then fourth finger on our third tape gets us a C, which is the bottom space of the staff. Let me show you what that looks like on a violin and on a cello. On my violin, you know what the open string looks like. First finger A, second finger B, and third finger C. It's really important that when we're playing with the instrument on the string that we're able to reach far enough with our fingers and still have our fingers with this boxy shape pointing straight down at the fingerboard. If our wrist gets flattened like this when we're playing, it's hard to be accurate about where our finger is, and sometimes it's hard to reach far enough. If our wrist is straight, our fingers can curve and be down. It's really important when we have the instrument in playing position, our left elbow is far enough to our right so that our fingers are able to have the correct shape. If our elbows too far to our left, it puts us in a really strange place and having to flatten our fingers to reach far enough. And we don't want our fingers flat. We want them arched and pointing down into the string. This is true for both the violin and the violas, although for the violins, your G string is as far as you can reach, and your G string violas is the second string here. On the cello, as with any string, it's important that we've got our fingers spread out and pointing straight down into the fingerboard. If our hand is crunched up like this and our fingers start to bend backwards, it's hard to get them in the right place and hard to get them spread out enough. So we always want to have this tunnel in here between the palm of our hand and the instrument, and our fingers are pointing straight down into the fingerboard. My thumb should be opposite my second finger. Then I'm able to reach my fingers far enough to reach the tapes and to have them curved so they're pointing straight down into the string. Open G, first finger A, third finger B, fourth finger C. So in our book, and you can practice this on your own, you don't necessarily need me to teach all these lines to you. They've given us a number of lines to help us practice reading the notes on our G string. This is a violin book, and you can see they've given us these pictures that show the fingers and hands in the right position so that we can reach there. There's a similar diagram and picture for cellos and for violas as well. The new idea they're showing us here is the G major key signature. We're used to always seeing two sharp signs for F sharp and C sharp, but now we're learning to play in the key of G major on our G string. So we have to have a G major key signature, which is only F sharps, and the C's are all going to be natural. That's especially important because here we have in line 94, we have a C natural. There is also a C sharp that can be written down here, but we don't know how to play it yet. So it's important we know that we're playing here C naturals and the key signature says so. All of these first lines have the exact same rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. But they have different notes. So here we go in line 93. All of those notes are G's. I can tell in this violin book they're G's because they are two ledger lines below the staff, below the second ledger line. If I play a cello, those G's are all on the bottom line of the staff. And if I play viola, the G's are all the bottom space of the staff. Line 94 is the same rhythm, but now we're playing C, that is C natural, not C sharp or cease. C, for the violins, I know it's C because it is on the ledger line below the staff. If you play viola, your C's are all on the middle line of the staff. And if you play cello, your C's are all in the second space of the staff. And again, same rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. And of course, in this line here, they're asking you to switch from playing C to then playing your open G string there. So for the violins and violas, it's all third finger and then it's open. If you play a cello, it's all fourth finger and then it's open. Line 95, again, the same rhythm. And now we're reading B that we just talked about. I know for the violins, it's B because it is below the first ledger line. I know it's a B for the violas because it's on the second space of the staff. And I know it's a B for the cellos because those notes are all on the second line of the staff. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. And here we're changing notes. Got a C, and then we got a B, and then C, G, C, same as up there. Line 96. Let's first learn how to play A. I know this note is an A because it's two ledger lines below the staff. If I play the viola, I know it's an A because it's on the second line of the staff. And if I play cello, I know it's an A because it's on the bottom space of the staff. So line 96. A, G, A, B, B, C. So this line uses all of the notes that we've just talked about on our G string. So let's get to the target, which is playing line 98. So first, to practice playing the G string notes, let's take a look at line 97 and make sure we know how to name all of those notes. You'll need your own book for this unless you play the violin and then you can read off the screen. I'm going to give you a moment and I want you to name all of the notes that you see in line 97. Pause the video and then come back and we'll check to see if you're right. All right, so take a look what I wrote in the screen. If this is what you wrote, then you've got the right answer. C, C, B, B, A, G, rest and lift, G, G, A, B, B, C. We play it on the trumpet. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right, and now finally, line 98, the actual scale. Now, fingering for this is going to be just like fingering our D scale, except we start instead on the open G string. G, A, B, C, C not cease, D, E, fees, G, and then backwards, G, fees, E, D, C, B, A, G. When you play the G scale all the way through, it should sound like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Practice this in the same way that you practice your D scale. The thing you have to be aware of is reaching over, especially for the chins, reaching over to that G string and making sure that your elbow is in the right position so that your fingers can reach far enough. If you reach exactly as far to play the notes in your G string as you do to play the notes on your D or A string, those notes are going to be pretty out of tune. Listening along with me playing this when I'm playing my trumpet and you're playing your instrument, or practicing with practice first, it'll listen and tell you whether or not you're playing those new notes in tune. And of course, now we have to be very careful when we tune our instruments. We also make sure our G string is in tune. That wasn't as important when we only played D and A string notes. Now we have to make sure that our G string is in tune as well. That's it for this lesson. Thanks for stopping by.